Hello, hello. I am here, Beth Martins, live on YouTube and X, and I believe Rockfin. Actually, I have to get Rockfin going. And just a heads up that looks like Amanda can't make it today. And we're sending her lots of love for what she's going through right now, just some transition time. And I know what that's like myself. Been in transition for a long time myself. So let me just grab Rockfin. And if you're jumping on, come and say hi in the chat. This is going to be a community chat, which I haven't done for a really long time. I always want to, and then for some reason I don't. And so anybody out there, love to hear from you. I'm here for you. Can talk about a few things. And Rockfin, let me see. Short attention span, I tell you. Alrighty. Yeah, lots of glitches today. Supposed to be live on Facebook, ain't live on Facebook. Supposed to be live on Rumble. I don't think Rumble's working, but it looks like Rockfin is working. So that's a good reason to be decentralized. And yeah, so I can give you guys a little update on my trip to Texas and a few things that I've got coming up and what Amanda and I were going to talk about. And here I'll grab a Rockfin link as well. So if anyone prefers that to YouTube, then please do feel free to jump on there. Here comes the link. Hello, Mark, the Arc Spark. Nice to have you here. Good to hear from you. This will be fully interactive. I'm all yours, you guys. Not that you're sitting there waiting for me to be all yours, but I am anyway. And there's the Rockfin link if you prefer that one. So yeah, I don't know. A lot of glitches. Is it Mercury retrograde? Is it solar flares? Is it HARP? I don't know. Who knows anymore? Strange things happen. It's almost impossible to tell exactly why it's happening. But if you would join me in sending some prayers to Amandha Vollmer, who is a little down and out today, then please do that. Sending her some healing love myself. And I know what it's like to go through. So combination of all that, right? Put it all together and that's where it goes. Exactly. I was going to sleep the other night and I had this very strange pulsing pain in exactly this spot. And every time I woke up during the middle of the night, it was still pulsing pain like that. And then it's gone and I never heard from it again. But you just start to wonder, like, what are they doing to you? What happened to Amanda? She's just under the weather. So yeah, a little bit of a migraine going on. And I know what that's like. So she was going to try to do it anyway. And I just thought, especially since we were planning on talking about the nurturer archetype and what it's like to take care of yourself while you are taking care of a lot of other people, it is a thing. It's a juggling act. And I know for myself that the waves of activity in my work do this. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. And in those up moments, it's pretty wild. When I'm running my coaching certification training, then it's 7 months of a lot of questions, a lot of people's, stuff coming up. I could use a bad word there, shit coming up. I'll use that. And then, so there's a lot of call on me, a lot of draw on my energy, and I really thrive on it. So you might be a nurturer if you also thrive on that when people around you are needing and wanting what you have. But this is actually a big trap that you can get into. It doesn't mean you shouldn't enjoy that, but there is a fake kind of enjoyment that I call a nurturer's high, when you're just going the distance and you're helping everybody and you're doing everything for everyone and you get all this beautiful energy, but it's really dopamine and adrenaline, and you don't realize that you're running on your spare tire. And then all of a sudden you realize you've been running on your spare tire because you crash. Something makes it impossible, a little, do not pass go, do not collect $200 kind of moment. And it brings you back to yourself, which is not necessarily always the way you want to go. If you can preempt the crash, that's a beautiful thing. So I know I'm still learning to do that myself. And yeah, so we'll just send Amanda a lot of love. She's got a super lot on her plate, and we will be rescheduling. So that's you won't miss it. I just wanted to come on today, and because I told everybody I'd be here. I like to be here when I told everybody I would be. And yeah, so what else is going on? I'll let you guys know a few things that I'm on the Anarchapulco is doing a new series called the Non-conformist Series, and it is going to be running with some live interviews, Q&A kind of thing on, mine is going to be June 15th, so Saturday afternoon, and I just completed my talk for it. So they're interested in decentralized societies, very big hot topic in the last 4 years. And I know there's a lot going around from a lot of different perspectives, people teaching you how to homestead and grow your food and be self-sufficient and do water systems and all of those kind of really practical things, which is fantastic. Highly recommend it. But what I saw in the last 4 years since creating the House of Free Will, which is a private domain association, is that the biggest Achilles heel people have, I'll just give you the punchline of the talk, and I'll share a link out as well about that, is that people can't get along. And you see it all day, every day, all day, every day. And sometimes oftentimes I just turn it off. It's not a huge attraction for me to get in the middle of any kind of, fights between the ballers and the FEers, and between the germ theorists and the terrain people, and between those who think that the, economy is crashing and the dollar is going to fall, and those who think that's a big psyop. And it's amazing how many teams we've got out there, right, that are fighting against each other, unfortunately. And what happens when we fight each other is that the enemy runs free. They do what they do. They've got us, maybe it's by design. They've got us all being mad at each other and splitting and dividing and cancel culture, right? This should be the place in the truth world where we don't cancel each other, but that goes on a lot. So my talk was focused for this Non-conformist series on how to get along and what roots inside yourself that you can find to have less conflict out there, and with a special emphasis on the nurturer archetype, because that's what happens when you get into community. Personally, I would want to be in community, and I am in community with other nurturers. But if you're in community with other nurturers that have no boundaries, then it's actually no bonus. It's a real takeaway. So that's something to seriously keep in mind. And that's what my talk was about. Or is about, one is recorded and then one's going to be a live Q&A. And the vibration of discord is being broadcast everywhere. Yeah, exactly. Be strong, be clear inside yourself is the big thing, and see where you get triggered and why you get triggered, and investigate it here rather than investigating it out there, always trying to figure out what's wrong with somebody or what's wrong with a movement or how you can disprove things. I mean, if you're a serious researcher and you want to go in and you want to dig up the facts, shout out to Matt Unseated, who does that all day, every day. And I feel like he has a lot of integrity in that. And yeah, pause. That's a good tool when your thoughts enter, and pause when the emotions come up. And my best advice ever is learn to see the programs that are underneath your thoughts and your feelings that are hidden until you make a conscious decision that you're going to go in, you're going to see the truth of what is going on for you. Once you see it and you allow yourself to experience it, then you can make a new choice. And those new choices can come very quickly. And the results of the new choices to be free come about very quickly as well. I've been putting this to the test a lot lately, and I'm always amazed how quickly, say if I'm working on a goal and I let some things go that are standing in the way of having that goal, and then that goal starts to rush at me always faster than I expected, and that creates new problems and new reasons to heal and release. Hello, Lamb Chop. Nice to see you. Welcome. I'm glad you could make it. It's been so long since I just came and talked to you guys. So I'm very interested in how you guys are doing. And if you want to put anything in the chat, anything you want to talk about, I will grab a link to the Non-conformist series. And Mark the Arc Spark. I was wondering, you're not Mark Archer, are you? I don't think so. That's different. Just kind of rhymes with that. Hello, Lamb Chop. Nice to see you. So let me see. I got a lot of links going on. And yeah, I was pleased to be invited to the Non-conformist Series. Super excited. There's some great speakers there. Tom Barnett and Persephone. Darn, I do not. Okay, you're not. I do not know Persephone's last name, but I got to know her a little bit at Acapulco in person in Mexico, and she's absolutely beautiful. If you don't know her, then you want to check her out. Here is a link to the Non-conformist Series, and it is a paid speaking series. So they have given me a code for people to get a savings on it through me. And so that's my code right there, FREEWILL. So if you click on that, you'll be able to see all of the speakers. I guess if I click on it, I'll also be able to see all the speakers. Funny how that works. So here it is. And yeah, Persephone's last name, we got Jeff Berwick is going to be speaking, and Ernest Hancock, and Cal Washington, I didn't realize is going to be on this series. Jay No One, Colin Cantrell, I'm not familiar with either of those. David Armstrong, I've heard his name a lot, but I don't know him. Persephone Aishwara. I actually feel like I know what that word means. Aishwara. It's, yeah, I'll have to access my India brain for that one. And Catherine Benandin and Dr. Lydia and Arturo de Leon, who I also met at an Acapulco. So I'm going to have to hit some of those guys up for interviews myself, and also Carla Garrick. Did I say her name right? There we go. So that's going to be very good. I'm going to enjoy that. And it's nice. There will be some live content as well with a Q&A. And I believe Rebecca Scott is going to be doing the interviews. So she's putting her hand in there and she's a stage manager for an Acapulco, and she also did some emceeing there. So I think she's now getting herself up into that role of being an interviewer, which is a cool role. I love it. It to me is the most fun of all of the work that I do. It feels effortless just to ask questions and listen and be part of a meaningful conversation and learn what I want to learn, because those are my questions, and sometimes vetting people that way. So yeah, that's that. And it was hard to create the talk, I have to admit, because it was just talking to a camera. And for me, I'm used to speaking more in live situations, whether it's in my classes or trainings where there's actually people there. I mean, they're on Zoom, of course, but I can see their face and I can see, are they getting it, or are they like screwing up and feeling like they really don't know what's going on? And then talking to a camera only can be very like, nah, I've got no feedback. I've got no anything. And it took me 3 days to make one video. But I wasn't satisfied by all the mangling together of a variety of clips, and new ideas came to me as I did it, and I was trying to fit within their time frames. So yeah, it took me 3 days, but I did it. Amazing. And I'm really happy with how it turned out as well. So if you would like to attend that series and hear all of these talks, this is the link that you can sign up at. It's in the chat, and I believe it's not in the notes below, but I will drop that as well. And then you can enjoy savings. I think it's 20% savings off if you use this code FREEWILL. It might be 10. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but let me know if you use it. And ArcSpark came to you on the journey of enlightenment. Very good. Nice. That's great. Yeah. On my journey to what I thought was enlightenment in India, they called me Vijaya, because if you don't know, my first name is Victoria. That's a secret. Don't tell anybody. It's part of a little bit. It just worked out that way because my parents wanted to call me Beth, but Beth Victoria didn't sound good. So they swapped it out for a Victoria Beth, which sounds nicer. And then they called me Beth anyway. So I was always just Beth. And then I actually turned out that I like the name Victoria because it's got that word victory in it. And I tried to use it at one point, but it was such a huge, mum's the word you won't tell anyone since we're live here. It was such a big thing. Has anyone here ever had to change their name in people's perception? I remember my aunt going through that, and she corrected people for like 5 years, corrected them over and over and over. And finally we all got it, and she didn't have to correct people anymore. But I'm not in for that kind of a long haul. And there is a certain goodness to being known in my world by the name that I'm called. And then anything official, they know me as Victoria. So if I get a call to Victoria, I know I'm dealing with an official of some kind and I can act accordingly. So it helps me have just this teeny little bit of buffer zone if I need it. And so I could talk about my trip to Texas, which was very cool. We love Texas and now we want to move there because it is, wow, head and shoulders above where I am here in Canada. This place is going to hell. If you drive around on the streets in Winnipeg right now, it looks like a war zone. It's dangerous. My son blew a tire the other day, hitting the potholes, and it's so dumb for I'm teaching him how to drive. He actually has his test tomorrow. Please send him a whole lot of good energy for that test. I would love it if he was able to pass the first time, but we'll see how that goes. And I know, just blew a tire. And why do I have to, as the instructor, teach him how to navigate potholes? Like, people, they all look like drunks the way they drive here. They're going straight, and then all of a sudden you see this thing, and then everybody, like lemmings behind them, we all do this and swerve and look like total drunks on the road. But the alternative is blowing your tire out, or ruining your whatever rim. I don't know what the name of all of that stuff, but kudos to my son because he was able to change that tire. Little help from his dad, but he's getting some really good skills, and I'm glad because his car is a shitmobile, and he loves it. He thinks it's fantastic, and I think he's really lucky to have a car at this stage. So yeah, and then we went to Texas, and the roads are good, right? And it's obviously a very wealthy, at least the areas that we were in is very wealthy. There's nothing wrong with any of the infrastructure that I can see going on. One of the things I love the most about spending time in the States is that, and I'm sure this is not true everywhere. So just the places that we've gone, and they tend to be the red states over the blue states. I have no desire to visit a blue state, or unless I had a good reason, I would. But and they just tend to be more for the people. So the way that traffic is organized, for example, when we went to Louisiana as well, traffic is organized so that it encourages the flow of traffic. Whereas here, traffic is organized so that it creates absolute like roadblocks and dead stops and huge long lineups of traffic trying to fight their way through single lane, and they've been working on one bridge. This is their third year of turning a 70-kilometer-an-hour thing to a 50-kilometer-an-hour from from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes. And now my trip to my son that used to take me about, 4 to 6 minutes, it now takes up to half an hour, depending on how bad the traffic is. So it's just like insane. Hello from Los Angeles, Lori. Nice to see you. I wonder how it is there. Now, California is definitely a blue state, that I know. So apparently there's been quite an exodus out of California. And I know the Texans were reporting on there being a lot of people from California around. And I had an issue. Yeah, I was going to talk about that as well, for sure, getting back into Canada. So I can let you guys know that sad story. And so yeah, I'll just maybe jump right into that and talk about Texas after. So my son and I, as I was saying, we do like to make our trips to the US. And most of the time it's been because we live so far from anywhere good. We just go to North Dakota. No offense, North Dakota, if anybody's there. It's still better than Canada. Like immediately you drive across the border and it's like you're in a different world altogether. And we usually take a day or two and, just go to a few stores that we like. Scheels is awesome. I don't know if you know about Scheels, but it's a fantastic employee-owned, huge, kind of like outdoors, everything, and really good stuff that my son likes to look at. And maybe I won't talk about that exactly because that's not a good public subject. But anyway, so we went and we decided we didn't want to spend any nights there at all because you get a really expensive hotel room for some reason in Grand Forks. It's still so expensive, and it just didn't feel worth it. So we went back the same day, and I do know that when you get to the border, you have to be gone a certain amount of time to qualify for exemptions. Otherwise, anything that you purchase across the border, you will owe duty on. And never in my life have I paid any duty because I was always gone at least the minimum amount of time. So we were bringing a few things back, and I decided to claim them at the border and then just sort of play stupid, like, oh, really? Oh, really? Okay. And then he's like, okay, yeah. So he quoted me a price on the payment at the window and said, just, pull around here and go inside to pay. So I go inside to pay and I come up to the door. I guess they'd given me a slip and the guy goes, that'll be $130. And I said to him, the guy at the window just told me it was $100. And he goes, oh, well, you can just go and sit down over there then, like this. And it was like, I'm going, what the fuck? And I said, unfortunately, my rebel came out in that moment. And I just said, you know what? I'll pay your extortion fee. We need to get home. And then his hand went up again and he flagged the guy with the gun. I saw this. So I just like a little bunny went to pay the money and I try to leave. They head me off and they tell me that they're going to search our vehicle. And I said to him, managed to pull out one line from all of the law study. I said, am I being detained? And he said, no, but all of your possessions are like this. Okay. So yeah, we go outside and they start searching the vehicle. Well, it was a little bit unfortunate because there was one thing that we hadn't claimed exactly, and another thing in the truck that they found. So they found it in the back, and it was an airsoft gun, right? Like not a big deal, but it is a replica of an actual real thing. And my son's a very big fan of these, and so we found a great deal and. There it was. And so the border agent comes like running around the corner and he holds it up in my face and he says, this is very dangerous. This can be turned into a real thing, like this. He was just all panicked and freaking out. Meanwhile, his partner was rifling through the glove box and he comes out holding another one like this, like it's a specimen. So both times they found it, they thought they were the real thing for about 10 seconds or 20 seconds or something like that. And then they treated it like they had some real live ones here and we were like the danger zone. So they drag us into, well, they don't drag us, but they take us into the office. And, they weren't particularly awful to us, but it's really stressful and tense and they sat us down. So for 90 minutes, we listened to them argue about our fate behind the door so loud that we could hear their almost yelling at each other, these five guys. And they come in and they come out and one guy comes in and then another guy goes in and there's all this like bah, 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 going on. I'm going. And then I realized, oh my Lord, they are deciding on what to do with us here. And, so there's several things that can happen. One is impounding the vehicle. I know that people have had that as a punishment. Two is a hefty fine. I know someone that got $1,000 fine more than 20 years ago. So that fine is probably $5,000 or $10,000 now. And, in the meantime, they took my car keys. They took my license. They took my registration. They locked the vehicle. So they locked us out of it and left us sitting there. And the drama, cosmic furniture, exactly. And it also, to top it all off, my license and my registration were expired. And I knew that. And it was a bad choice for me to drive across the border in that way because I know that that's dodgy. And so after the 90 minutes, and I'm sitting there praying and releasing and deprogramming because I know for a fact that if I have 1 ounce of fear or aggression or any other not love kind of emotion going on, and they're all not love, by the way, inside me, then I am contributing to my own demise or my punishment or all of that kind of thing. I know this, right? It's like dogs. They smell fear. And one of those guys definitely wanted to crush me. I think that's why there was so much arguing going on. And so I'm praying and I'm releasing and I'm praying and releasing. And my son had just been quiet and we're just quiet. And then he turns to me and he says, Mom, I take full responsibility for this because it was the thing that I had got him. So he was feeling like it was his fault. And I said, you know what? No, I take full responsibility for it. I'm not blaming you one little bit. And then he said to me, well, we'll share it then. And it was a beautiful, very connected moment of love between my son and I. And I just felt like, wow, that's amazing for a 17-year-old to offer to take responsibility for the whole thing. And you could see his blood started to boil just because of the mistreatment, the wrong things that they said, that this airsoft could be turned into the real thing. And you could see the energy rise in him. And then I just was hearing what he was saying. And then he calmed his own nervous system down and went back to being quiet and just sitting. And then after, I know, how beautiful is that, right? He is the lamb chop. Thank you. I couldn't love him more. Like, amazing. And then after 90 minutes, the nicer guy came out and he called me up, Victoria. And I went up and he said to me, I don't know, I scrambled the order on this one, but basically he gave me back my car key. That seemed really good. He gave me back my license and registration. No, the first thing he said that is that based on the events of tonight, which I didn't even really know, what were they saying is the events of tonight? I don't know that. He said that you are now, your passport is flagged for 7 years and you will be delayed every single time you come back into Canada from here on. And I'm going like, okay. And but in the meantime, he had handed my stuff back, so that seemed really promising. And then he said about the seizure, and I'm sitting there with the car key, and I'm going like, I'm hoping it's not the car they're seizing. And it turned out they did a whole seizure process on the airsoft. So then they had to somehow wrangle it. Basically, what they offered me was to buy it back from them. So they'd seized it, and now I want to buy. They asked if I wanted to buy it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we got it for a reason. It was actually paying the duty, not that, just to be a little bit fair there. So I paid the duty on that, and then he said, and about your license and registration, that's a $900 fine. And I went, gulp. And then he said, but I can't give it to you because that's not our jurisdiction. And I went, oh, fantastic. He said, if you drive home and you get stopped, that's what's going to happen to you. And I thought there was half a chance he would call the police on me and find us as we were driving back, but they didn't do that. And I got home and safe and everything was good. And why didn't I renew my license and registration? No, nothing. Honestly, how I got into trouble is being a rebel without a cause. I should not have used the word extortion with people who have firearms and are in authority and can have a big influence over my freedom. So that was my lesson. And the same thing why I didn't renew my license and registration is because I just don't care enough to do it on time. I pay them once a year, a huge lump sum once a year. And in my rebel without a cause mind is like, well, if you have to wait a week or two, then that's fine with me. And I guess I've never been stopped. I've never been pulled over. I've never had a border problem whatsoever. And you're curious if he would call ahead. No, he didn't. He didn't. And, the good guy won over the bad guy. They said they were both going to be making reports. And I was, he gave me a paper saying that I could appeal the events. And I'm like, oh, so I said, so you're inviting me to appeal? He goes, no, lady, no invitation. It's just your right. Like this. So I made it look like I was going to appeal. So I wrote down a lot of information in front of him, and just in case that would influence in any way the nature of their report. Polarized policy enforcers. Yes, exactly. Good cop, bad cop, right? That's how they roll. And then I was lucky that the good cop won that night, because it could have been a lot worse. Again, losing the vehicle, getting a huge fine. And then so after coming home from Texas, I'll start with the end. We're coming home, and by the time we hit Minneapolis and we're just an hour or two away, I start to all my fears come up, and it's already late at night and our flights have been delayed, and we were getting in close to midnight, and I could just see, is it going to be 1 a.m. before we get out of the airport, or 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. or who knows what. It can be really luck of the draw if you get the unhappy person with a long shift ahead of them and they got all the time in the world, or are we going to, show up just in time for the shift to change and people want to just process and get their way out. So I did my inner work, right? I had to give it a chance. I knew that I had to prepare myself for the fact that we might still be going through an ordeal of some kind. But at the same time, if I can remove any amounts of not love, experience, and programming going on inside myself about this, it gives me the very best chance, gives us the best chance, because my son was with me. And so we get off the plane and into that, international area, receiving area where the customs officers all are. And you must, I don't know if you've heard anybody talk about this, but we've got these machines now since 2019 where you have to, instead of go talk to a guy, you go talk to the machine. And the machine flashes in your light, a big light in your eyes, a really bright light 10 times, 10 times, 10 times, 10 times. It's like either hypnotizing you or it's a retina scan, which they claim it's not, but who knows. And why do they, just to take your picture, why do they need 10 flashes? This is wrong. And so I'm contemplating the cameras. I always refuse them now. Since 2019, I started trying to see what do I actually not have to do that everybody's doing. So that time I said, you know what, that machine gives me a headache, and they just let me go on through. So from there on, I never did the machines. I just talked to the agents. And then I'm negotiating in my mind, and it was a little bit, I'll call it, just because I've been teaching about this archetype the last week, is the prostitute archetype, where you go along to get along, not selling my body, but you go along with rules that either make no sense or might actually even bring harm to you, which I always felt that machine did to me. And I thought, you know what, Beth, don't fight about the machine tonight. That might make it worse for us. So I'm going like this, and then I'm contemplating going through the machine, and I feel sick from head to toe about the machine. And then I just decided, you know what, we're just going to go ahead of the people, go through the line, and come up to the first agent, the real person there. And she says, do you have your white paper? And I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't have my white paper. We don't use those machines for personal health reasons. And she's like, okay, no problem. Just go right up to the front and talk to that nice man up there. She didn't say nice man, but she couldn't have been more beautiful, actually, like in support. She was actually supportive of my choice not to use the machine. So we go up to that guy. And now we're traveling by the letter, and we got receipts for everything, and we got all our expenses down to the cents. And there was one thing I was bringing back that I knew I was just slightly over my amount that I could claim without paying duty. So I divulged that. I said, I have this much extra. And he's going like, oh, don't worry about that. No problem. I don't care about that stuff. And then he says, could I have your passports, please? So then he sticks my passport in the machine, and you could see his eyebrows went, oh, like this. There was a moment, he never did get unkind with us, but he just asked us standard questions and didn't ask to see all those receipts or anything like that. But nonetheless, I saw a moment, something happened. So we went and got our bags, and we got into line to leave. And when we got up to the front, when you got freedom on the right and you got a blue line on the left. Well, this is the first time in my entire life I got sent on the blue line. And so we go like little bunnies. All right, here it comes to the blue line. And within a few seconds, some very nice other man comes around the corner and goes, oh, we'll be right with you. Don't worry, we'll be right with you, like this. Like we're at a fancy restaurant, and he's eager to serve us. I'm going like, wow, that was neat. And it literally wasn't 2 minutes more when they sent the nice lady that I met the first time in, and she said, we'd like to scan your bags, and if I don't see anything, you're free to go. So the scan takes about 10 seconds, and she said, you're free to go. And we just left. And it was like a miracle, because they had jurisdiction over us in that area, and they could have made it hard for us. They could have just made us wait. They could have made it, search through every little nook and cranny of every bag, and maybe, searched us, or I don't know what the jurisdiction is about a physical search. I guess they need some cause or something like that. But so it was amazing. I came home. I felt so blessed. I was absolutely high as a kite. I wanted to search them down, because I felt like there are still at least three good people in authority in Canada. And I want to just, if you want to help me again, just send some loving energy towards them to carry on not being a nemesis to the people. And yeah, it's already stressful, right? Lamb chop going through security at the airport. It's already stressful. Never mind when you're flagged for 7 years. And so, yeah, that's that's how that went. That was that story. And so if you've come on new, welcome to the King Hero's Journey podcast. By the way, I did have a guest today, Amandha Vollmer, but she had to cancel and regrets not being able to be here. She's not feeling well. So let's all send her some healing vibes as well. And the trip in Texas was really cool. The purpose of it, if you're not familiar, is that I was being interviewed by Alec Zeck. And when we set that date, he said to me, Beth, are you able to come in person for this interview? And I thought to myself, like, maybe I am, because I know my son loves Texas and he wanted to go there. So we ended up making a trip around it. And then I had a really fantastic little synchronicity happen, speaking of those. And I reached out to Freeman, if you know Freeman. And because I'm obsessed with the nurturer archetype. Hello, Michelle. Nice to see you. Obsessed with the nurturer archetype these days. And I asked Freeman because I've been in several interviews with him. The last one he called conspiracy therapy. And there is a little bit, like, I'm a coach. So in the interviews of me on his show, I do end up coaching him a little bit. He tells me his problems. I give him some feedback. It's not full on all of the methods that I use, but just, some general guidance. And then so I texted at that time and I said, you know what, can you relate to this archetype? And I sent some information to him and he's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Total synchronicity going on, because he had just been a victim to some cats, some stray cats that would live outside his window or, show up outside of his window, and they just look at him all day. Please let me in. Please let me in. And then so he finally let them in. I think there was 4 of them. And one of them promptly had babies, like 11 babies. So all of a sudden he had this enormous cat thing going on. And he was in so much pain. He told himself he wasn't going to love cats again, because then when he has to let them go, there's problems. And, so it turned out that he wanted to have me on his show right away to talk about that. And this, if you haven't heard it, is the interview right there, the link in the chat. And that was a really good discussion about if you have a soft spot for cats, especially, but that's anybody that you look after, that you fall in love with. Conspiracy therapy, yeah, you can relate. And so he had me on, and then it turned out that the fellow that does tech work for Luke Storey is a fan of Freeman and saw or heard that interview, and then he recommended me to Luke to interview me because he heard that I was coming to Texas. And I don't know if you know Luke's podcast, the LifeStylist is what it's called, LifeStylist podcast. And he has a ginormous audience, is very popular. There's a few controversial. The first thing I listened to of his was his interview with Alex Jones, which was pretty epic, actually. And in some ways endeared me to Alex Jones and made me feel into him more as like a human being and his life. And you could see at times there was a lot of emotion coming up. And I actually used the interview as an example of how when people suppress emotions and pain, that you can see that and you can see the signs of it. And but it turned into more or less the same thing, even though they discussed controlled op, and because he's always being called controlled op, and I myself have been that person. Then I came away from the interview feeling pretty darn sure, because he went into major fear porn and the anger porn and all of those ways that if you only watch the first half, you won't see that. But the second half, it was just all there, ramped up. And that to me is a sign when they need you to be afraid. So, hey, Lori, you're saying you refused the biometric photo and scanner at Burbank Airport and it worked out well. You let the woman do the pat down in front and everyone so others could see there's an option. Yeah, I always do that. Now, this is on the way. That's on the way into the holding tanks or whatever they're called, so the gates. So yeah, I always do that as well. I'm hoping my son will follow suit at some point, but I never go through the scanners. I only will get the pat down. And this last time they threatened me, oh, it's going to take a really long time. And I'm like, okay. And then someone came around the corner so quickly, and the woman was really like gruff, and and didn't want to be friendly at all, but it's okay. And I secretly joke, like, you don't know I like this kind of thing. And yeah, it's always worth it. Imagine though, if everybody asked for a pat down, it would stop their show. It would totally stop their show. They wouldn't be able to process people fast enough to get them on their planes. So I don't know what's better. Just save yourself sometimes. And yeah, the trip to Texas, it was fantastic. I know 11 babies, 11. That was like insane. And then he had to, and he miraculously rehomed those babies very fast. But then what happened is the mama got so distraught, and she cried and she cried and she cried, and she spent a couple of weeks always looking for them, and she was unconsolable. So that was really hard on Freeman as well. And thank you, Michelle. I totally appreciate that. Glad you got a laugh. And yeah, so in Texas, we rented a truck, and we want to fit in and blend in, with all those big truck drivers, and traffic is wow in that zone. It moves amazingly well, even at the worst times of day. You don't really get stuck. And even though things are very far away from each other, like everything is all decentralized more or less in the Austin area, but you could get everywhere fast. And it was a bit scary. We did see a kind of crazy, the aftermath of a crazy accident, a three-way thing. One was a head-on, and that made me a little bit nervous, but we made it through everything really nice. And I don't know, it's just good to be in a country where they are more for the people, or at least appearing to be more for the people. And that's something that I definitely noticed in that country. So we would like to move there personally. That's a goal. And it looks like my son is down with that as well. Yeah, the interviews went well. I love Alec Zeck. He's amazing in person. Totally recommend his podcast, The Way Forward. I believe his interview is coming out in about 5 days already, might be 5 or 7 days, something like that. And then the one with Luke Storey will be coming out July 9th. And then one thing that I have coming up is a course called The Nurturer's Cure. And that's why I'm so focused on the nurturer right now. And let me tell you, when you focus on anything for the sake of helping and serving others, can you guys guess what happens in the process? What that turns into? This is the case for me with every single subject that I bring forward to either my students or to prepare a course. This is a brand new course, and I've thought of doing this course a lot in the past. It's occurred to me many, many times. God has told me, yes, do a course on this. And it was coming stronger and faster. And then there came a moment where it's like, oh my God, I'm going to die on my deathbed going, I wish I had done a course on the nurturer. Why? Because people need this so, so bad. And there are far and few between people who have actual good boundaries that I notice. And there's a lot of nurturers and a lot of helpers, but they don't do it clean. They do it in a way that there's a whole lot of inner stuff going on. I talked about this in my talk on the Decentralized Societies Non-conformist Series, a story that Matt Presti told on my podcast about a little girl who was at the scene of a fire with her dad. And the house was a goner. It was completely engulfed in flames, and there was no retrieving anything in the house. But the dad was holding a tricycle. If you didn't see the interview, I highly recommend. It was a really beautiful one. And then so the dad's got the tricycle in one hand and the little girl in the other hand, and he is sobbing uncontrollably. He's so upset about what is happening to their whole entire life. And Matt overheard the little girl look up at her dad and say, "Don't worry, Daddy, you saved my tricycle." Or, "It's okay, Daddy, you saved my tricycle," like this. And it's like, wow, little girl, wow, that you have that capacity to, which is debatable actually, to, turn around and console your father when it might easily be the other way around. And yeah, sorry, Lori, you told her, of course, I'm not sure. I might be out of that conversation now, but anyway. And then I really saw I had an insight in that moment that I've had at different times, and I had it again in a very poignant way with myself. But I think one of the reasons that the nurturer archetype is so prevalent in our societies is that we were more or less all raised by damaged people, and we were born into damaging circumstances. And so I had personally an experience where I'm seeing an osteopath here locally, and it's been really good, and I've enjoyed that a lot. And there was one thing he was finding, I think, in my neck, and he said, yeah, that's probably a birth thing. So then I'm reflecting on my birth as he's doing this work. And I went into a memory, and I don't know if it's a memory or whatever. You can't really prove that, but it did feel like a memory of me being born. And there was a time I asked my mom, what was my birth like? Because I wanted to know, a little bit, what was that like? What was your experience? And she said to me, like, who knew? She had a twilight birth. She was so incredibly drugged. She had no idea how that birth went, and anything could have happened. And so I had a memory of being birthed and feeling like my mother died in the process, right? Because when they drug you like that, it's just a matter of degree. More drugs would kill you. So they're giving you just enough to completely knock you out or whatever. I don't think they go to sleep. I don't know. Maybe somebody here knows more about twilight births, but I had the memory that, oh, my mom is dying. And I had the memory of my nurturer coming forward to try to take care of her, right? Like that's been a kind of lifelong thing. And then I saw how her nurturer got killed in that moment too, because the birth process is so, you can't kill an archetype, by the way, it just goes unconscious, but it becomes somewhat deadly in the process. And when they knock out the mom, and that's one of the reasons for the whole natural birth world, that if at all possible to have a baby while you are lucid, because there's a very important transformation that takes place while you're birthing. And it is both downloading information about that child and how to parent and take care of the child. I totally not just believe in that, but feel like I got that myself in the birth that I had of my son. And then, yeah, your nurture, your nurturance, the ability to love and care and be above and beyond the call for every possible thing for that infant and saving their life every 10 seconds. It feels like when you're a new mom. It's a big deal, and it requires a huge, heroic, almost Olympic style nurturance. But that's because we live in an artificial society, and it's really fucked up, where moms don't have support and they're behind the 8 ball for every little thing. Never mind if you already have children and then you've got a new baby and you still cook and you still clean and you still are doing all of those things that make every day seem impossible. So I'm super committed to teaching people how to get clean with their nurture archetype, how to what I call crush with boundaries rather than being crushed under the weight of your nurturing nature. There's a lot of pitfalls with this archetype. I've done some great interviews already. It was going to be the subject with Amandha Vollmer today, when we were going to talk about how she manages to take care of everybody and herself at the same time. So I'm going to get a link to sign up, and there's one thing that you can do at zero cost is to, let's see, to do this training. And I'm actually giving you Amanda's link because she is helping me get the word out about this. This is a free training on getting off the nurturer's pendulum swing. So you can click that link and sign up for free and get instant access to watching and listening right away. My apologies for the video quality was shit because Zoom is shit and I'm not that techie, but I have to figure that out for the future more so. And then the actual course starts on July 10th, one day after my Luke Storey interview comes out. And the early bird is on until June 15th. So about another 10 days where you can still get this course at the lowest possible investment. And I do highly recommend it. It's going to be 4 weeks of live classes and a whole bunch of great topics. We're going to discuss, let's see, I have a link up about this too somewhere. A bunch of good stuff. We're going to talk about basically how to deal with a crash, because nurture's crashes are so intense and so regular and frequent. And a nurturer can feel like they're always staving the crash off. They're always skating on the edge, and they're taking their echinacea and their vitamin C, trying to not go down with a detox and all of those kind of things. So what's beyond licking the wounds, because there's a lot more. The alternatives to beating yourself up, which is a very common thing that nurturers do, making a self-care manifesto and really good solid goals, and letting go of secret resentments for those you help, which is something nobody wants to admit at all, but it's there almost inevitably with every single nurturer I've worked with, and that's a lot. And so many of your friends, work colleagues opted for a C-section when their babies were born in the natural position for natural birth. In other words, there was no emergency to warrant. I know it was like 1 in 3. I don't know what the stat is these days, but when I was birthing my son, the stat was 1 in 3 women would end up with a C-section. And that was an opt-in, exactly a choice, not like, oh, you need this because you're not going to survive it or your baby's not going to survive it. It's because they thought that was going to be better. Just cut it out of me and I'll bypass all the pain. But you don't realize the enormous cost of that. And then the second week in the Nurturers Cure course, we are going to talk about the need to be needed. And this is something also very insidious. And most mums will notice it as their kids become more independent and move away. That's just one way. Or if you're in a helping profession and you help people all day, and then all of a sudden the people don't need your help anymore. And that's me. I've been definitely going through this and releasing on it, because my hope is always that people graduate from my work. If you're a coaching client and you have learned some tools and techniques and methods, people always or often say that they've got my head in their voice, which is not, I don't want to be installed in them, but they internalize the process and you start to be able to coach yourself. So it's fantastic. I love that my people get independent of me. It's not a thing that they need me all the time and they have to keep coming back over and over because I'm the only one who can do that. It's not like even a massage therapist or anything like that. It's, you can't easily do that for yourself, but this work you can do for yourself. And of course, there's always benefit in having some guidance. I know myself that shout out to the coaches that help me, because I can't think my way out of a paper bag sometimes when I'm all mired in programs. And so that need to be needed is a really good one. If you find yourself being indispensable, that's not good. I was there in the corporate world almost 25 years ago where I felt like I could not leave my position in my family's firm because everything would fall apart and that they would suffer without me and they wouldn't be able to do it without me. Well, lo and behold, I got so incredibly sick, they had to do without me. There was no choice. And guess what? They did it without me. I was completely laid up and there was no ability to go to work and certainly no desire at that point. I let myself off the corporate hook with a stage 4 lymphoma, but that was just a big fat illusion and lie that I was so indispensable. And that's how nurturers unconsciously protect themselves and try to stay connected with people and have a place in society because they secretly need to feel safe. But it's not the high road. It's not even the high road. It's just not a true road. That's not going to make true relationships. It's going to make dependencies. And then as soon as you are replaceable because you crashed, you'll see like, oh, you're not indispensable. That's just not even the fact. So I want to help people really get cured of that and see, what is the profile of a healthy helper? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And what is the profile of somebody who's being enabled by a nurturer? Another very big shadow that they think they're helping everybody, but to what degree are they enabling and holding them back? That is a staggering reality that most nurturers that I've worked with, they're going like, oh my God, I knew it was hard on me, but I didn't realize it was hurting them, right? So what is the way to help so you don't enable and hold people back? I'm going to teach people the art of solid boundaries, what actually boundaries are and what they're not, because that's a superly awful, super badly understood thing in our world. And it's not just saying no, by the way, that there's a clue. why you need boundaries, what's the difference between a nurturer's high and real actual life energy that comes straight from the source, and what are symptoms of bad boundaries to look for in yourself and others. You learn a lot about other people when you study the archetypes within yourself. You start to see that those patterns in others, and you start to be able to navigate relationships much better. You see, like, oh, that person's in the shadow of the nurturer. They just ran after me and tried to help me with something I didn't ask them for help with. And still they're trying to give me this remedy and give me that remedy. And I had people in my world that they would always do that. I'd say something on a live stream and then they'd come running after me to fix that thing. Is like, no, this is a boundary problem. If I'm not asking you for help, don't run after me with help, or at least ask permission. Would you like to hear? Right. So there are ways to be very clean. And it's not just about changing your ideas and shifting your behavior. This is actually about deprogramming, letting go of those roots inside yourself that you're not aware of. And it's not your fault you're not aware of them. Why are we not aware of them? It's because they're too painful. And they were too painful for especially the child that installed a lot of the programming. And we still install programming pretty much every day. Every time you let the fear win or you suppress any version of fear, whether that's apathy or grief or the fear emotion itself or lust or anger or pride, even courage and acceptance and peace, all unfortunately are rooted in fear programming. So I'm going to teach people how to be ninjas and see that inside themselves. And thank you, Cosmic Feature. I really like that. Or Fern Tree, not Feature. I appreciate your comment a lot, and you're very welcome. And then the last module of the Nurture's Cure course is the Elixir of Sacred Purpose, because that actually is the cure for the nurturer. And when you have purpose, all kinds of nurture problems come into focus and are easily managed and easily sorted out. You know who you are, you know why you help, and you will gain great insight into who you are perfectly wired to help. And that's a huge part of sacred purpose. So we're going to talk about the hero's journey of a helper in particular, and deciphering the code of who you're actually wired to help, and then finding and releasing the energy drains and hooks that are inside yourself that are going to take you down. It's like a circus in there, just like the circus out there that makes no sense. It's a circus in here. No wonder they can get away with creating a circus in our lives, because we're all used to it in here. And I don't, I do think there's a chance for future generations to be healed, and it's our responsibility, right? It's up to us. If we put an end to the circus in here now, then we're going to be an example of that. We're going to create environments and I want to say create children, or birth children, and teach them in a different way that's not just a carbon copy of all of the damaged people that came before us. So I think we've come a long way, and there's a lot of evidence that we haven't come a long way at the same time. But around me, in my world, and the people that I work with, there is a really beautiful, growing freedom and the real thing, not just yelling freedom from a megaphone at a rally, which I haven't been to for a long time. Are there still rallies? I don't know. There probably are. And, this is a chance for you to see how God works with you, and make some really great new decisions based on how you're going to use that helping spirit, because the helpers are really needed, and they're going to be needed even more based on what is being done to us. So if we don't have healthy nurturers, then we don't stand nearly as good a chance as if we do. So that's all of that. As I mentioned, it starts July 10th. And all of the sessions are 2 hours, going to be between 1 and 3 in the afternoon on Wednesdays. And the early bird investment is up until June 15th. So it's very reasonable. I made it stupidly reasonable because I'd rather give this information to more people rather than make it more exclusive. And there's a couple of things that you can upgrade to a Nurture Goals group coaching session, which is fantastic. Nurturers have really hard time making goals because they are so busy and mired down and helping this one and helping that one and giving here and contributing there. And the thought sometimes of making their own goals seems out of reach because their plate's so full already. So that's why you must make good goals and put positive things out in front of you that you genuinely want to see in the world. And more often than not, the nurturer's goals are going to be very selfless and for the betterment of other people in their life. So I want to support them to do that. And you can also upgrade to include my Find Your Sacred Purpose course so that you can do those modules as an online course and get more and more clear about your purpose, which is the elixir. So you can find all of that at this link. The group opportunity is a wonderful add-on. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah. I thought that was a really good one. The group comes live on June 21st. So you definitely want to sign up before then. And let's see. Yeah, this is the link. And because in honor of Amanda, who couldn't make it today, we will be rescheduling, by the way. So she's very clear that we'll find another time. But this is her link to sign up for the Nurture Cure course. And if you use her link, then some thanks will go back to her as well, which I like because I like to see that people also benefit from the things that I'm doing. And let's see, anything else what I wanted to talk about? I don't know. I'm open to some suggestions on podcast guests, by the way. Luke Storey is going to be on my podcast, but he hasn't scheduled yet. So that'll be coming up in the future at some point. And sometimes it's better to charge more. Yes, I know. I do know that. Choose the gold pill. And it's something that when it comes to my courses, I like to charge less because that's what gives people a chance to get a taste of this work and get a sense of me and what it's like to work with me. And then in the House of Free Will, I have my coaching programs both on a one-on-one basis and trainings and stuff like that. And I know when it's too little, they don't show up. We did one course called Primal Power earlier in the law days. And I was doing it with somebody that they were going to bring some knowledge from the Bible towards these 5 archetypes of the child, the victim, the prostitute, the saboteur, and the masculine feminine. And because she was bringing that knowledge from the Bible, she decided that it wasn't right to charge for the course. So I'm like, okay, well, okay. She said, but we could do it by donation and just make it whatever people. So I think we had 270 people signed up for the course. And some people gave and some people didn't give. In the end, it was actually quite a generous donation on the whole that people had made, and it worked out okay. But yeah, managing all of those students was a huge thing. And there were people who literally, they didn't come to a single class. They never opened the course. Why? Because they didn't pay anything for it. And to me, that is a tragic thing. So you won't see me doing that very much. I'll do a free training again, just for people to get a sense of what it's like to work with me so they can get to know me a little bit. And if people want to explore working one-on-one, I will always take the time to have a conversation with you, to jump on a call, get to know each other so I can learn about where you're at and see if it actually makes sense, if the work that I do is right for where you're at. So feel free to always contact me at my website, bethmartins.com. And Amos Bradley is here. Hey, I should consider interviewing Benny Wells. Yes, I get that recommendation all the time. I just want you to know, all the time. And a few people have tried to get him to contact me, and I've tried to contact him, but I think the timing has always been off. It's almost like he's always having a baby when we go and ask him. But you're in his private group on School. So yeah, feel free to recommend me for an interview. I know, I bet a bunch of people have done it and recently as well. But good suggestion, Amos. Glad you're here. And he is busy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no problem. And then speaking of the House of Free Will, that's a place where if you want to come and join, we have weekly fellowship. There is a whole huge library of workshops from a whole bunch of different people, including Amandha Vollmer on critical thinking. And we had a bunch of law stuff, Canadian and American, dealing in bar grievances and all kinds of court process and the private domain, also how to be lucid and sober about going into the private, what that means. And we had health workshops on nutrition and somatics. And Berlando gave a workshop on bodybuilding, which was amazing. I love that. I want to have like 3 more of those because there's so much more that I would like to know. And he said he would come back. And we had Matt Presti do a workshop on creativity. There's just like this huge library now over the last 3 years that the House of Free Will has been happening. So there's no shortage of education. It's all positive, no doom porn. And there's nothing in there that I don't agree with because I'm not using the House of Free Will to do any vetting and see if it's good or not the way that I can with my my podcast. So I feel very good about all of the offerings there. And for a small monthly donation, then you get all of that for free. There's no charge for all of that stuff. And you also get access to my training that is coming up in September now. In the House of Free Will is the Journey Code Coaching Certification Training. And that's where I train coaches to read archetypes, to be skilled in helping someone deprogram and release those artificial bots that we carry around all day long that make our choices and our decisions for us. And so if you're somebody that wants to help people in a a really responsible way to yourself so that you have a profession where you can earn a living and you're not going to burn out and become useless to everybody and yourself, then that's a really great thing to look in. The people that take my training have exponential personal growth. I am always amazed personally at the bravery and the courage they have to put themselves out there. John Kai Willis. Nice. I have never heard of him. If you feel like it and you want to jump on my Telegram and share a link or something like that, that would be awesome. I'm going to grab my Telegram link as well. And then, so here's the chat where we can hear from you. And then I should go pretty soon because I'm going to take my kid out for his last driving lesson before the test. Here we go. So that's my Telegram group. That is a chat. Just says at King Hero. Why is there no link? I can find that too. Yeah, weird. Everything's weird today in the tech world, I tell you. Telegram. Oh, well, just keep on persisting. I'll get it. I'll get it yet. Anything else going on out there that I haven't heard about? Any fear porn that's being spread around that I'm not paying attention to? And, what percentage of people have I interviewed that turned out to be bad apples? Oh boy, I have no idea percentage, but for sure, if you go back to a lot of my law series, then there was a ton in there. Like, for example, Daniel Losnick. I interviewed him twice. First time I thought he was pretty great. The second time I'm going like, I don't think so. I turned away from him at that point. He kept trying to draw me in and kept saying like, oh, Beth, I'll do these amazing things for you. And I'll give you a discount. And I'm like, I don't think I need your help. I'm good. And then it turned out he took absolutely terrible advantage of someone in BC based on seeing my interview. And that was bad. So I just want you guys to know that just because I have somebody on my show, it's not because I am endorsing them. We all have to use our own mind and due diligence. And luckily that person contacted me and I was able to, we were able to expose him and nothing bad came of that. So I felt good about it. But yeah, there's a fair amount. There's a fair amount. And if you didn't see, I have a little series on the archetypes of controlled op. That's how I lost my first YouTube channel, by the way, is interviewing Freeman on that subject. And so let's see, am I any closer to my Telegram? Darn it. Try one more. So funny. Show notes. You know how you can put the pinned, I don't know if you use your notes on a Mac. I use my notes like that's my whole system going on there, my library of everything. And when Apple guys see my notes, they go like this. Wow, that's wild. Still not there. What the heck? There it is. Okay, finally. So here's the King Hero channel on Telegram. Hopefully you can click that link, and then here is the chat. So I always post about my interviews coming up. You fucking fucker, excuse my language. Okay, that didn't work. Don't click that second link. Oh, look at that. I talked about notes and now it's completely failing on me. Good God. Good God. Not supposed to say the word God anymore. Did you know the word God means luck? It's not actually God. That's according to Mark Archer, who I've interviewed. And so I'm trying not to say that word anymore, even though I was talking to God about it last night. And I said, is it okay if I use that word, God? Because I am so used to using it. And he's like, it's totally fine, Beth. So what God told me, because it's really the meaning and the spirit. It's not the words. We don't need to be in word jail. That's another thing that I do in the House of Free Will is a weekly snippet video that is private only for members. And so that is a chance for me to sometimes teach on something interesting, and also a chance to sometimes rant about things and talk about important subjects. They'll probably end up being the makings of another book as they start to come together, because there's one every week now for 3 years. So there's a huge library of snippets, and they're shorter little videos so that you can get through them in a decent amount of time. And they're always food for thought and discussion. It's really good. So there's lots of listening there if you want to hear how I see and feel about nearly everything. We'll see if I run out of topics on that or not. You'll have to start doing interviews for the private community as well. And you're very welcome, Lori. So yeah, that last link is my King Hero chat. That was hard, boy. All right, my dears. Well, unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about or have questions about, then please do let me know. And once again, I'm sorry that Amanda wasn't here and wasn't feeling good today. So yeah, we're just sending her a lot of love. And but I will keep you guys posted when we're going to be doing it again, talking about the nurturer archetype and how she manages to take great care of a lot of people and herself at the same time. So that's my big subject. And I think that's all for now. So lots of love, you guys. Thank you very much for joining. I appreciate it. And I will see you back again when there's something planned. So bye for now.